Hello, I just wanted to come on to say that we're going to have to reschedule Dr. Alali. We're just going to keep her and her family in our prayers. She has had some family emergencies, so we're going to have to reschedule her. Hopefully, maybe next week. Not sure because there's some things that she's had some uh, death in her family. So we're just asking for everyone to pray for her and her family. So basically, we're still going to talk about caregivers and caregiving. I've talked a little bit about some of the things that I went through, just some issues that I've encountered as far as being an advocate for my mom. You do have to learn a lot of different things because you will have to advocate for your loved one. And that could be if you're a caregiver for a younger child or a child, a parent, a sister, a brother, a husband, or a wife. One thing I learned is that do not be afraid to challenge the doctors. Do not be afraid to question the doctors. And one thing I learned about the elderly is that the barometric pressure actually causes them to have certain issues. And my mother had mild dementia. So sometimes when, just like people would say, when it rains, their arthritis act up or whatever, sometimes it can affect those with mild dementia. And I'm not sure about Alzheimer's, but I know that it can affect their mood and their mental capacity at a certain point in time. But I also learned that UTIs can affect the elderly as well. It can throw them off, and I usually am able to detect that. And a lot of times I was able to detect that was the issue that my mother was encountering. And I would actually, tell the doctor she needs some antibiotics because of this, that, and the other. So I started learning the symptoms and understanding. And sometimes I even educated the home health aides to let them know when you see her act like this or, she's not herself, then we have to start making, deduce what may be the issue. And I had to do that a lot of times. I can tell when something was off, like her sodium, her potassium, anything like that that is off within an individual and even within us, but definitely within the elderly. It can really throw them off mentally. And I remember one time when my mother, her sodium, as well as her having a UTI, and she kept, when we got her we called the ambulance when we got her to the hospital, and they were asking her, "Who am I?" And she kept saying that I was her mother. And it's while she kept saying I was her mother, she really didn't say my name, but she knew her aide's name, Mesrod. And then she just kept saying, "She's my mother. She's my mother." And I know she was confused when they have that confusion. It's always, or most likely, it's a sign that they have a UTI or their sodium or something is off. There's a major imbalance. They also do check to make sure they gave her a CAT scan, make sure that she wasn't, having a stroke or anything like that because of the confusion. But a lot of it's never been a stroke. It has always been either UTI or her sodium or potassium was off. So I learned a lot that I was not aware that can make you confused, a UTI. So in caring for my mom, you really, begin to research and read up on things, and you learn a lot of different things, as far as health and as far as the human body and the mind, especially, and just how the barometric pressure can affect someone and bring about a mood change. Um, just things like that. And, sometimes we even, feel a little dreary or weary or sad, when it rains and it's just a dreary day. And sometimes it affects our mood. But I learned that it really had an impact on my mother's mood when the barometric pressure went down. I would start really looking at those things. At first I didn't pay attention to those things because I didn't think it really mattered in one way or the other, but it actually does. So that's something I learned as well. And I just learned to just really be present and attentive to my mother. And, when I see something that's off, I'm right on it. You have to be right on top of it. And so, like I said, this was my life, so I was able to detect something wasn't right almost immediately. And like I said, when I would take her to Kaiser, we would go to the urgent care. And, a lot of times she didn't want to, but once in a while, when she really wasn't sure what was going on, then I would say, we're going, and she'd be like, okay. And, and that's another thing. My mom sometimes would say to me, I don't know what's going on with me. And this is when she started exhibiting mild dementia. And she would notice something wasn't right, and then we told her, and I remember when we went to the neurologist, and he gave her Aricept, and that really helped. It never progressed. She was sharp. It never progressed. And it kind of, she would have moments, but it never progressed. And so she would, really come to herself. But I also remember the night before, well, actually 2 weeks prior to her transition, we were in the hospital. She was inpatient twice. The first time she was at Holy Cross for 3 days. And then the second time she was at the Washington Hospital Center for 3 days. And both times I stayed in the room with her. And when she came home and I realized that she needed a hospital bed because it was becoming more difficult for her to move around and transfer from the bed, because she used to be able to just, pull herself up on the bedside commode and, in her walker. But it was becoming more painstaking and difficult for her. And so to help with all of us, and, cleaning her and things of that nature, we needed a hospital bed, because I had propped up her bed and put these pillows, because she couldn't lay down flat. It would make her dizzy or something. So finally I said, okay, we just need to get a hospital bed. And the doctors finally agreed. And I remember that it was delivered on a Wednesday. And I think that must have really made her feel like, and prior to that, at least 2 weeks, she just kept saying that she was tired. She was tired. And generally when an elderly person, are saying that they're tired, or someone who is not well and they're tired, you know, they're tired. And, she was 93, and that was a blessing to have her for all these years, and that she was able to live that long. So that just was a major blessing for me. And I was ever so grateful to God that I was able to care for her. And that Friday night, she said, wow, I'm in another world. Wow, I'm in another world. So, of course, she's on we have the baby monitor. So I'm hearing her. And so I'm running into her room like, Mom, what do you mean? What, another world? But at that time, I feel that she was transitioning, because I was she wasn't answering me right away. And then she was like, "Oh, nothing," but I think at that time she was transitioning because that Friday um, was when it happened, that Friday night. And that Saturday morning, I was going to go to her hair appointment before then. And she wasn't really eating during that week. And I thought that she wanted something to eat. She loved cornbread. So I mixed some cornbread up with scrambled egg. I said, "You want to eat something?" And she was like, "Yeah." But then when I started feeding it to her, she was like, "I don't want any more." So I'm like, okay. So I remember going to the kitchen and tears rolled down my eyes because I'm like, I want her to eat. But she said, "I'm okay. I'm okay." And so later that day, I talked to her because she was even refusing to take her medicine. And so the aide called me and I said, "Mom, I'm going to stay on the phone." I said, "Can you please cooperate and just, take the medicine?" And I stayed on the phone and they said she took it. But we had also found earlier, weeks before, maybe months before, that she was kind of hiding. I don't know how she was hiding her pills because we were kind of still there, standing there when we gave it to her. It wasn't like we said here and then walked away. We was kind of standing there, but we found the pill here, a little pill there. So we had to start saying, "Open your mouth," but she was just tired and she was, ready to go see her God. And she felt that I was going to be okay. So, those things with the loss and dealing with being having a life after being a caregiver when that was your life, you get a new normal. It's a new normal when you start caregiving, and then it's a new normal when you're no longer a caregiver. And so you really have to make these adjustments. And as Miss Washington shared on the other day, you know you do have to figure out a way to still have some time for yourself, a respite. You do, because it can be very overwhelming, and you can get tired, um, you can get weary, and emotionally it is a roller coaster. And from day to day, you have to learn how to be patient, but you have to be very flexible. And like she said, you use a pencil because you just don't know from day to day what you may encounter and what you may have to deal with. And I've learned to be flexible beyond what I ever thought I could be, and to adjust quickly to the situation at hand. And, I also credit that to God giving me that ability and that strength. And I look back and I know that it was on the strength of God because, you know, to not really be sleeping, through the nights. And now I can sleep like a bump on a log until I cannot be moved. I am like fast asleep, so I think my body is trying to make up from all those years. But again, it's something that you thank God for, that you were able to do it and take care of her and do the best that you could, and it's not for everyone, and it's definitely not for the faint at heart, because for me, I became the parent. Our roles switched in so many ways. As a baby, like Miss Washington said, they wiped our bottom, but now your parent, and I didn't know I really had that capacity to really do. And I'm talking about her hair and her nails and picking out her clothes and buying her clothes, and making sure that everything around her was pretty like she liked. I always made sure her dining room table was outfitted with charger plates and things like that. And it was a transition even when we had to move down the street to the new apartments. And she initially said she was sad, because she had been in those apartments for 52 years. And for her age to have to move, to another location, and she was used to her wood floors and walking down her hall to her bedroom, and now it's a new walk, it's a new place. And after about a year she was saying that, oh, I think I've adjusted. That's what she said to me, but I think that was more so for my sake. But it was so many adjustments that we had to do, and she was, rolling with the punches as well. Like I said, she's a very strong woman, and I just thank God that he allowed her to be my mother, and that I was able to really show forth my love and my appreciation, um, and really take care of her. So there are so many other stories I can share, but I just wanted to hop on here to say that we're going to have to reschedule Dr. Alali, and we will keep the conversation going. And again, shout out to all the caregivers. I will constantly pray, for all the caregivers in the world, and just pray that God's strength will be with you, and that you will have others that will come to your aid and help you get that respite, get that time to yourself that you need to just rejuvenate, even if it's a few hours, that you will be granted that. And like I said, I am ever so grateful for the Jenkins family, and, Laverne and my mother's aides that really, really came through to help me. And so, on that note, we will be definitely coming live again, not sure when. And I also want to say happy Thanksgiving. And even though there could be a lot around this Thanksgiving as far as history and the Indians and the pilgrims or whatever, and that it wasn't as pleasant, um, but I do say we can use this time to turn it over for the good, to be thankful and grateful for God's mercy, and be thankful for where we are, what we have, um, and just know that somewhere, someone may be a little worse off than you. And that's when we definitely need to pray even more for everyone in this world. And pray for those that are homeless, pray for those that are jobless, and just pray for the healing of our nation, but the healing of the world. Pray for all those that have lost loved ones due to COVID, or just lost loved ones overall, period, that now that they won't have them for this holiday. And it is harder during the holidays. So I just ask that everyone keep me in your prayers, but also I extend my prayers and best wishes to all of you. God bless.